Started. Thank everyone for being here today. I appreciate it. First order of business is to review the minutes from September 9th, 2021. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Are there any changes, additions, amendments to the minutes that are handed out? Well, seeing none, we'll take the minutes as approved, as submitted. So the next order of business is look at the financial summary for July through December of 2021. It should be included in your packet as well. You look there, we're currently sitting at, we have an available balance of $45,895.85. So we've expended approximately 26.93% of our budget. A lot of that is in labor cost. So a lot of that hasn't been spent with the director not coming on until December, and we still have a part-time position that's vacant. There was interviews earlier today, but as of right now, that position is vacant. So that's why more of the budget hasn't been used at this point. There are some items we're keeping track of, and that's the veterinary service costs have gone up. We've had more animals coming into the shelter, which is not unique to us. That's going on all around our area, and as far as I know, all across the country. And then also, there's some other expenses here and there that advertising, that shouldn't be, that was a one-time expenditure. You don't normally do a lot of advertising in the newspaper, so that won't be an expenditure. If there is a need for any budget amendments or it changes later in the year, that probably be at this point something that's done in June as a budget, just to clean up the budget. We don't see any major overages. There are some projects that may come. I don't know if it'll be this fiscal year, but for consideration to use some of the animal shelters reserve to fund some of those projects. But as of right now, we're sitting in a pretty good position. Is there any questions or anything more on the financial report? No. Well, that being said, if I will accept a motion to approve the financial report as presented.
I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Presley. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Johnson.
I second.
Seconded by Ms. Johnson. Is there any other questions, anything relating to the financial report? No? Well, seeing no questions, all those in favor of the report as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. It is approved. Well, turn off myself. Next item is moving on to the shelter director. I want to introduce our new director, Rebecca Trout. She started December 2nd, I believe was her start date. And I know she's been extremely busy because I get a lot of the Facebook messages. So I know she's been extremely busy, and I'm going to turn it over to her. She's going to give a status of the shelter report. So if you have any questions, I will ask that you wait until she's done with the report and she can address them at that time.
Okay. Currently we have 6 dogs, 4 in the shelter, 2 in foster. Since I took over in December, I've had 7 adopted, so that's a total of 13 dogs so far. Currently, I have taken 30 calls for about for stray dogs, animals, cats, that thing to that nature. 12 calls for owner surrender, 7 calls for missing pets, and 5 others. That category would be for neglect. I have been doing some networking with the surrounding counties, kind of get a feel of, what they're doing, what they want, or, what their current structure is. I know that there's been talk about wanting the shelter to be an animal control. So we've been talking about that, going in that direction with those counties. Been speaking with Mount Juliet. They have a structure that I personally am kind of going in that direction, where there's a shelter, animal control, and then a nonprofit relationship with that. So I've been doing some networking, see how things are going in that direction. I have been also speaking with Make and Spay Neuter Assistance. We've been talking about collaborating with a nonprofit entity for now, and that just kind of helps get some assistance that maybe what's in the budget may not be there, so that kind of helps give some of that relief from vaccines and things like that that may not be covered under a grant. You'll see in your packet the information about donations. There's information on some of the documents in there as well. And then we were talking about our own 501c3 for the shelter. And that is also the structure that other counties have as far as that goes in their relationship. So I've got a lot of ideas, excuse me. I've got a lot of things that I'd like, a couple of goals that I would like to get for the shelter. Right now, just trying to get a part-time employee, talking about some things like a vehicle for us to have, talking about some renovations to the shelter. We're going in that direction, getting some, just basically networking with the surrounding counties and getting some ideas and some things working in that direction.
Are there any questions for Ms. Trout?
I have a question, just a general question. You could probably answer it. Being governmental, can she be a 501c3?
The 501c3 she's talking about would be an organization put together by private individuals. It wouldn't be done through the county. It's a friends of kind of thing. I think they've got one in Macon County and some other surrounding areas. So it would have to be a private group of people getting together to create that organization, and they just partner with the animal shelter. It's not done under the county umbrella.
Another question, the vehicle. Is there any department within the county that maybe be getting rid of a vehicle or has one that can be transferred to the animal control?
Well, that's one of our agenda items for a little bit later on down in the report. So if that's fine with you, we'll cover that when we get to it. Any other questions? No? All right, I just want to go over a little bit more in depth on the donations received here. If you look through there, what was presented does cover not just adoptions, but also covers fees coming in for adoptions and donations from individuals. So far this fiscal year, we received $751 in adoption fees, and we received $1,751 in donations for a total of $2,502, and that does go into the county's, the shelter's reserve fund, so it can only be used for the animal shelter. It can't go to any other departments or any other purposes. So any questions on the donations or adoptions? Okay. Well, seeing none, we'll move on to the next section on the agenda, and that's discussion items. First, we're looking at the shelter policy. There has been a lot of questions come in to Ms. Trout, and she's asking me about our donations. Currently, we don't have a way for people to donate online. Us being a governmental entity, it creates bookkeeping problems working with the trustee's office. There's a lot of hurdles we'd have to go through to set that up. And that's one of the things where the 501c3, looking at what Ms. Trout has suggested in Mount Juliet, they have a friends of there. And if you want to make donations, if you click on the link, it actually takes you to their friends of page. So you're donating to the 501c3, who then will turn around and make a donation or whatnot to the county and working with them. So if there is going to be an online donation portal as far as the mayor's office is concerned, which is where all the bookkeeping and everything is done, we would prefer it be done through a 501c3. They can make donations to Ms. Trout or come to the mayor's office, and we can accept donations, a check or something like that, and we give them a receipt and we submit them to the trustee's office for sending over to the banks. But as far as doing online donations, like I said, giving bookkeeping standards we have to follow, as well as cybersecurity things that make it a little bit more difficult for us to do it than it would have be a 501c3. So if we're going to go that route, I would suggest that we work with that 501c3 when it's established and have all online donations go to them. Is there any questions on that or suggestions?
Have we heard anything from Fixed Trousdale? Or do you have anything to do with those folks there?
I currently don't have anything to do with them. They are separate. I do send people that if they're trying to surrender their animal based on the inability to spay or neuter, I do send them to her. Otherwise, I don't have any personal relationship as far as the Fixed Trousdale goes.
Any other questions, comments? No? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is adoption fees. This is something Ms. Trout and I have discussed. We were doing this spaying and other services through the veterinary service vet's office, which was coming out roughly $135 per animal. We do have some of that ability to do it in-house now with some equipment and medication that Ms. Trout has gotten. So our costs on that are going down. So I asked for us to look at the adoption fees, or at least bring that up. And I know there's been questions come to my office, and I'm sure Ms. Trout's got a lot of them, questions on the adoption fees. So we just wanted to put it on here to let everyone know it's $125 adoption fee. Speaking with Ms. Trout, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but right now we feel that we would like to maintain it at the $125. We don't see a need to go down because there are other expenses other than just spaying and neutering and treating them, giving their vaccinations. We still have to provide them food and water and everything like that. So there's still some charges that go in with that. And although we do receive donations, they're not so much to offset our expenditures. They're pretty much been reserved in the past for major projects, renovations, and those kind of things. So at this point, myself, and again, I don't want to speak for you, but you're shaking your head yes. And I'll say, Ms. Trout, we would like to leave them at $125, but we wanted to bring it to the board since we've gotten some questions on it. And I don't know if you have as board members, but that would be our, I won't say recommendation, but request. So again, I open it up to the board members. If you have any questions, comments, or just to get your thoughts on that, is if you're in agreement or opposition to that.
I'm in agreement. It also controls who adopts. If we lower it, we may have some unwanted owners. So I'm all for it. Do we need to vote on that, or?
I don't think so. That's already what the fee is, and we're not proposing to change it. I just wanted to bring it to the board because, like I said, I know I've gotten questions on it. I don't know if maybe you had gotten questions on it as well. We just wanted to go ahead and address it while we're here.
I've had like a few people would ask what the adoption fee is, and once I explained that covers spay, neuter, shots, worming, food, and whatever else if they come in with an injury, and it covers their care, people seem to be pretty satisfied. And then I don't get any rejections after that. So I think it's a good price.
All right.
I just wanted to add, if anything, my recommendation would to either keep it or raise it. Mostly because costs caring for the animal would be going up. Costs for dog food is going up. I try to get as much as I can donated in as far as dog food goes, but if anything, I would recommend it to go up. And to echo what TC was saying, most people are perfectly fine with, once they realize that that fee covers those services that we do, they're usually fine with it.
You're not going to get a dog anywhere for that amount. I mean, you can get a free dog, but then when you go get it spayed and neutered, if you get it spayed, neutered, and shots and wormed, and you follow the veterinary protocol, you've gone above that 125. So.
At the moment, I feel we should keep it the same, and then if Ms. Trout sees a need to increase it, we can always have another meeting.
Any other comments? No? Well, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. And this is one I asked to put on here. This is ownership of animal. I know, again, I won't put words in her mouth, but Ms. Trout's come to me. There's been several occasions where we've had somebody wanting to surrender an animal. And there's been a question of when do they actually become an owner? There's nothing in our codes or policies that really set out when they become the owner of the animal. Again, looking at Mount Juliet and some of the other cities, so we're mainly where you're going to find these ordinances, but it seems to be about 3 days. If they've been on the property 3 days and they're providing food and water and shelter and whatnot, at the end of the 3 days, those places that have these ordinances are considering that animal to be owned by that individual that's the property owner. And that's really come up to, we've had several come in that were going to be surrendered. We didn't get the $50 surrender fee because of, well, they were strays or something like that. But under these, you would get that $50 fee, again, to help offset the expenses of housing the animal and providing that care to them. So as we go forward, we're not making a proposal here today. Ms. Trout was wanting to look at some of the other ordinances and everything I've got on there, which we'll need to work with the county attorney to smooth those out before we bring them to the board. And if the board approves it, then it'll go to the county commission because it has to be amend the ordinances and the code that we currently have. But we just wanted to bring it to your attention and let you know this has been an issue and something we're looking at. When they passed the ordinance that created the animal shelter, they repealed the pre-existing Title 10, which means all those ordinances they had before regarding leash law and a bunch of other things were repealed and not replaced with anything. So that's something we're wanting to look at, and not going to adopt everything Mount Juliet has because it's pages and pages long, but there are some things in there I think we need to look at. And again, we're going to work with the county attorney to get a proposal together, and we'll bring it to you when that's ready. Hopefully it'll be sometime in the next couple of months. Are there any further questions or suggestions on that item? Okay. Seeing none, I move on to the next item on the agenda, and this will be under proposed documents. Ms. Trout has prepared several documents she'd asked us to take a look at and get approval on. Two of them would do our legal documents, and that'd be the surrender agreement and the adoption contract. I know the county attorney has looked at the adoption contract, and I believe he's looked at the surrender agreement as well. And so at this time, if you look in your packet, I believe maybe the first one you're going to find is the intake checklist. So if you want to look over that, Ms. Trout has prepared this and submitted it. So if you have any questions on that, I would turn that over to Ms. Trout so she can answer those. And this is primarily just internal procedure into the animal shelter itself. It doesn't really have any effect on a lot of people coming in or interacting with the public. It's just getting information gathering when an animal comes into the shelter itself. So just for procedural purposes, if everyone's had a chance to look over that, I would entertain a motion to approve that checklist to replace the current intake form we have.
I make a motion to approve.
Mr. Presley makes a motion to approve the intake checklist as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Turner. Is there any further discussion on this item? No. Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting this new form, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. It is approved. Move on to the next item on the agenda. That is the surrender agreement. Again, this is a legal document, and she has got the feedback from the county attorney, and she is here to answer any questions on that if you have any. Okay. Seeing none, if I will entertain a motion to approve this as presented.
I make a motion, we approve this.
Motion to approve the surrender agreement as submitted by Ms. Turner. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Johnson. Is there any further discussion on this item? Any further discussion? No? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the surrender agreement as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. It is approved. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, this is the adoption application. This is a change from our current application, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Trout to let her explain this. There are several items, I believe, that are on here that are not on the current, so I will turn it over her to just kind of briefly explain this application.
Yeah, I feel the application is something that we gather information on the individual. I hate to use the word intent, what people's intent. I mean, I feel like if people are coming to a shelter to adopt an animal, that they have good intentions. Just going through, there's nothing wrong with the existing approved document. I just feel like that this gives more information of the animal. These are not required. I know that there's some questions in here about, there's one, number 7 says, list your landlord name and phone number. That is just a reference piece. Most of these things are for that reason, to just reference the individual, so we may know more about them. And that is my intent, is to know more about the individual that's adopting the animal. And I feel like that there's no negative reason for asking these questions. It's just the intent of the person. I feel like I have a pretty good judge of character with my background as you know, dealing with people on a daily basis. But I feel like and I encourage people to come and talk to me and, you know, get to know the animal. And through that and this application, you know, we make a decision based on those things. But it's one thing to read a document and initial and sign and date than it is to read and give description on the reasons. And, you know, there's one question that says, are you aware that the cost may exceed $500? You know, some people may not know that. It also says it may take 2 to 3 weeks for the animal to be acclimated to your home. That may cut down on the animal being returned. You know, in the scheme of things, that's what we want, so that they may stay in that home. Again, like I said, this is just the intent, making sure that the person fits well with the animal that they're looking at.
Okay. Are there any questions on the adoption application as presented?
What if they don't want to answer all these questions?
Ms. Trout?
I'm not asking that they don't, I'm not saying that they have to answer all of them. I would recommend that they answer at least the majority of them. Like I said, if they don't want to tell me who their landlord is, I have no problem with that. I feel like the person that is going to fill this out and be honest is the person that needs the animal. Like I said, I feel like I have a good judge of character, and I don't want to be invasive. So if you feel like some of these questions are invasive, you do not have to answer them. However, I think that determines if that animal is adopted or not.
I think the landlord information is important because a lot of landlords don't allow pets. And I know people that have gone and gotten a pet, and then I'll get a call. My landlord said I couldn't keep this dog. And so then there you go.
Are there any other questions or statements? No? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the adoption application as presented.
I make a motion approved.
Motion to approve the adoption application as presented by Ms. Johnson. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Mr. Presley. Is there any further discussion on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving the adoption application as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. It is approved. I'm moving on to the next item on the agenda. This is the adoption contract. Again, this is a legal document. It has been reviewed by the county attorney, and he made a couple of changes, but the form presented to you today has been approved by the county attorney. So again, I'll turn it over. We're willing to answer questions on that. Ms. Trout can explain it a little bit further in detail than I can. She worked on this, so we'll entertain any questions or comments on the adoption contract at this time.
This information is just making sure that, you're not going to surrender the animal in 6 months. Make sure that you know all the information that I know about the animal, and I'm telling that to you in this document. The contract says that I don't know any situation or incident that the animal has done something. There's a place for a comment. There's a place on here that says you will make sure that the animal maintains vaccines, flea and tick, heartworm, all of those things, the basic things that you would get for an animal. Parties agree that the venue to enforce this contract shall be, so all of this information on here is just stating that you understand that this is what we require from you of the animal. Again, I feel like this contract says this is what we require, what our intentions are, and to make sure that they understand that and that they agree to those things.
Are any other questions or comments on the adoption contract as presented? No? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the adoption contract as presented.
I make a motion to approve it.
A motion by Ms. Turner. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Presley. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the adoption contract as presented, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. It is approved. Okay, moving on to the next section on the agenda. This is expenditure requests. I will turn it over to Ms. Trout. She has several that she would like to bring to the board's attention. I'll turn it on now, Ms. Trout, if you want to address these.
Okay. Two of them. One is a business card and shelter apparel. I just feel like a business shirt not only identifies who you are, but also says that you kind of care for your job. Yeah. And then the cards, my intent with the cards is to put it in the adoption information that the person goes home with, so that in the event they may want to come back. I've had several people say that they've adopted from TC and they've come back to me based on, Facebook posts and things of that nature. But if they had a card, they would know the address. And so, that's the purpose of that. And I have talked to Beverly Atwood at KB Monograms, is that right? About designing me a design for the shirts. And then as far as the shelter software, that's just something to get all of this information in one place so that we're not looking for contracts and applications and different things like that. It just kind of brings this into a whole. And then a lot of these softwares that I've been looking into have a portal for donations. I've done some research on the best way to get donations, and most of that is at the point of sale. I know this is not a sale, it's an adoption, but right at the end, there's a place for the person to make a donation, and that helps. And then here is where we talk about the vehicle from the shelter. I know Cliff had offered one of the vehicles from Public Works. The mayor and I have spoke about seeing, I know they said something about getting new vehicles, and the vehicles that they that seem to be in much better working order, see where those are going, to see if that is possible, rather than one that needs a lot of work. I think Cliff said that 1,500 or so would be what is needed to improve this vehicle. I think he said something to the effect of 200,000 miles on it. So I know that they were proposing to give us a truck, but where that truck was, whether it be that one that he has said that needs improvements, or one that is a little bit newer that is being replaced from the new ones that they're getting. So I don't know, which vehicle we're looking at on that, but that has been proposed to the shelter. And then shelter renovations. In my process of networking, I have found a woman that runs I think it's an animal control facility. Her husband has a company that is a nonprofit that renovates shelters like ours that are in need. And I've been in contact with her. She's going to come by the shelter and see what they can do for us, but it is mostly funded, not mostly, it's 100% funded on donations and the community building it. So that's where that donation or the renovation is coming from, is hopefully finding companies that can come and help in that capacity. I think that, yeah, that's all of them.
And as far as the vehicles, it has been discussed at a couple of the committees about getting some new vehicles from Public Works. And I believe Cliff's looking into that. Again, I won't put any words in your mouth, Cliff, but I believe you're looking into that. If that be a purchase that's made this fiscal year, or to be put in the budget for next fiscal year. And I also ask everyone to keep in mind that availability of new vehicles is kind of limited right now. So just because we're going out to get one, don't need it be easier to get right now. I will say that we have looked at the cost versus, getting a used vehicle versus a new vehicle. Right now, the cost of used trucks that Cliff's department would use is almost the same, or maybe some cases a little bit higher than what you can get buying a new vehicle on state contract. So if we get a vehicle, it's probably going to be a new vehicle, and then there'll be the decisions have to be made what we're going to do with the other vehicles, where they stay in the department or are surplus or can go to other departments. So that's kind of where the status of that is. I do know there was one vehicle that would need some work. And if Cliff wants to elaborate on that, I'll turn that over to him. But I do think there was around, like you said, 15, 16, 1,800, somewhere around in there would be needed to make it a little bit more roadworthy.
It's out at pretty quick right now. John hadn't had a chance to look at it yet. He said he's going to try to get it looked at this week or next. He thinks it's going to be a pretty simple fix, maybe some coils. Like I reported in a couple of the other meetings, it's got new tires on it, a new battery. It's a pretty good truck for what she's wanting to do. It'll definitely get around town and do things like that. But if she needed to, I'd say it would go just about anywhere once we get it back from there. It's just a high mileage vehicle. And like I said, we're looking to buy at least one more new one this year. So if we can get that and get this one down to her, it would make her a good vehicle, 4-wheel drive. So she'd be able to get out inclement weather and take care of what she needs to take care of if she's interested in it.
Okay. And I will say of the items that's been presented for expenditures, the two that would require some kind of board action would be the vehicle and the renovations. I know she's working with that group to see if there might be grants or something available. One of the things this group, I believe, was involved in the Williamson County Animal Shelter and that big Taj Mahal. I believe it was $12 million. So I believe they're looking to see if there's any grants available to do something like that. And the shelter vehicle, if it does come over, there might be some expenditure there. So those are items, again, that could come to the board because there currently is no gas or anything in the current budget. So those will be new expenditures going in the next fiscal year. So again, those are the items I could see would come before the board. Now the business cards, apparel, and the shelter management, those can be done under our current purchasing process under the mayor's office. There's enough money in the budget to cover those, so that wouldn't require any changes at this time. Again, I just want to go back to something I mentioned earlier. If we do look like we're going over on some of these agenda items, currently the line 335 should say maintenance and repair of services and buildings. We budgeted 3,000. We haven't used any of that. If there are some overages on the other lines, that amount could be used to cover those. So it wouldn't require any new funds going into animal shelter. You just move some funds around to cover those. Cliff, is the work on that truck, is that something that you would look for if you're going to transfer it over to the animal shelter, that would be expense with the animal shelter, or are you looking to do that under public works? That's a question I've got, and I would ask you about that.
Well, we're hoping to get it running pretty soon so we can use it, you know, on and off as she don't need it. But like I said, when we get the vehicle that's coming up, a new one, we will definitely transfer the vehicle over to her. I don't have any leads on a new one. Wilson County Motors said it would be June before they could even order a truck for the people that are already on the list. They wouldn't entertain me. They had some Chevy Colorados down there with just a real small pickup, single cab, some four-wheel drive, but not anything we were interested in for our fleet. And then Ford said it'd be the end of February, 1st of March before they could get anything. They're supposed to get me a quote on that today or tomorrow. So short answer, we'll get it fixed and use it and loan it to her as well. And then when we get the new one, it'll be dedicated to the animal shelter.
All right, Mr. Presley?
On this truck that the county going to supply, will the animal shelter need like a topper or something for the back for the animals?
It's a club cab or a crew cab, a club cab actually, I'm sorry. She'll be able to, I'm sure, scoot the passenger seat up and set a crate in the back if it's bad weather, or, you know, just in a crate in the back is what we've been doing. She's had pretty good luck with that. So we may try to find an enclosed crate or just box one of hers in completely, but anything like that she needs done, we try to help her do.
I can't tell if you're reaching for the button, Ms. Trout, or.
No, I was just waiting to see if I had anything to say, but I agree. I've been using a crate on the outside. I had someone donate a seatbelt for a dog. So if I needed to put them on the inside, I have one. I've been really lucky with, excuse me, being able to put them in a crate and just put them in the back.
Is there any further questions on the expenditure request? As I said, right now, I think that the two end ones are the ones I could see we're needing to amend the budget for, but I don't think those are ready at this time. As Cliff said, I think they're going to maintain the vehicle for now with the animal shelter being able to use it. And then once they get new vehicles, they'll probably be surplused or transferred over to the animal shelter. Okay. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, next section, that's other. First item is the adoption fair. I'll turn that over to Ms. Trout.
So most people don't know where the shelter is. When I tell them it is at the convenience center, they don't know where that's at either. So most of these animals, I've had them in the shelter for going over a month now, and I'd like to see a little bit better of a turnout. And so I've thought that we could have a place where really what it is that the animal is sponsored. And really what that means is I was going to get the community to pay for their adoption fee, which is the $125, so that there's no reason for a potential adopter to have not to adopt the animal. And then the location, I've spoken to Sunshine that owns Farmers Produce at the Four-Way. She also owns Farmers Harvest, the restaurant. She has agreed to allow us to use her property for these fairs. I can imagine that we can get a vehicle to transport the animals. Currently, I only have about 5 dogs. So that would be probably 2 trips from the shelter to there, 2, possibly 3 in the back of the truck, depending on if we can get the 3rd one in there. But I'm sure I can find volunteers to help me, you know, on the day that we decide to do this. I would like to have it once a month so that we can get a better turnover for these animals. I would also like to talk to the community to donate to the animals so that not only will the animal be sponsored, but it would also have, I keep saying when I talk about this is an example of several months worth of free dog food. So that, again, like I said, there's no reason someone would not be able to adopt the animal because everything is covered. It would be fully vetted, fully vaccinated, fully medicated for the month. It would be altered as well. So it would all be capable, able, and ready to go for adoption. I think that was what we were talking about. Do you want me to go ahead and go to the nonprofit?
Just if you want to update, I believe you have requested an address for the animal shelter. We should be able to put that on the county's website, and people should be able to find that. It usually takes Google and some of the GPS companies a little while to catch up to it, but that is something we can go in right off the bat and go through Google Maps and make a suggestion to add that to their systems. So that is something that Ms. Trout's been working on. Hopefully we'll get that updated pretty soon and be able to update our contact information on that.
I have gone to the post office because someone sent me a donation and they kind of got a little upset about having to hold my package because there's no physical address. And so that's the reason why it prompted me to look into getting a physical address, because I didn't want them to send back that donation to the company. So I talked to the postmaster there and she directed me to the UT office, which said that there is already an existing number, but that is for the convenience center. And most people, once they use the 565 Industrial Park Drive, it takes them to way on past the convenience center, which I don't know the name of that company, but it's the company, truck driving company, maybe at the top of the hill. Old Time. Okay, it takes them up there, and that's not even on the map. That's not even the address. Then when they come into the convenience center, it takes them to your building up there. So the post office thinks that 565 is our physical address, but I'm looking into getting an actual number for my building so that it takes them to us rather than up the road. They've even unfortunately gone to the meat processing plant. And I'm sure that that was not a great deal when they're looking for a dog. But yeah, absolutely. But I don't think it's going to be, I believe she said that Dwight's going to come out and I don't know the process, but look into getting me a number, and it'll be Industrial Park Drive, whatever that number is.
We have the same problem at the convenience center. When you type in our address, it takes you everywhere on Industrial Park but the convenience center. So it is an issue on that street.
I was going to say that if it is Google Map, that is a Google Map problem, and I know how to fix that. But someone has to maintain the Google Map for the convenience center. So Google Map would say, is this your is this your business? And you go in and claim it. And then you would put the correct PIN, and then Google Map will update that. But you have to claim the physical address for Google Map to fix that. I can go on Google Map and drop a pin at my building and claim it, but it has to have a physical address first. There's a way to remedy that, but we have to have that account.
Ours has been done.
All right. Is there any further questions on this agenda item? No? We'll now move on to the next one. It's the nonprofit assistance. Again, I'll turn this over to Ms. Trout.
When I was talking about a 501c3, trying to figure out how I would go about doing that, someone from Make and Spay and Neuter Assistance, her name is Melissa Cothran. You may know her. She's reached out to me and has offered a lot of assistance. Appreciative assistance. She offered a lot of donations. She has offered vaccines and her 501c3 status. So she's working with me for now until I get my own. I say I get my own, but I mean once we get our own entity, whether it be I create that and pass it on to someone else, or form a committee of that board, and then they form that and then they work with us. But for now, she's working with us. She's donated vaccines, a microscope, medical equipment, a lot of different things. And she would like for us to work with vaccinating the surrounding counties. That's something that I'm interested in getting into so that it shows that the shelter is consistent with not only spay and neuter, but also vaccinating.
And I believe right now you were looking to set it up as a friends of, let's say, something like that. I mean, I don't know that it's going to be exactly that, but it's going to be that model. Am I correct on that?
That is correct. And my idea would be Friends of Hearts Vegas, if anybody wants to know that.
All right. Well, I've discussed it in the past, and you know, my personal preference is that it be Humane Society, just given their certain authority under a couple of state law that I think is still good that the Humane Society has. Plus, I'm also probably perhaps a little selfishly hoping it'll take over the animal shelter. But that being as said, either way, this is going to be a private group that has to do this. This is not going to be a county project. So I believe Ms. Trout has spoken to some individuals. Again, I won't put words in your mouth. I think you've spoken to some individuals, and I had talked to some in the past that were interested in being a part of some effort like that. So I would think there would need to be a local group needs to get together. And again, I'll defer to Mr. Presley on that. He's been through the process of starting up a nonprofit. I have not. I know generally the outline of it, but I think you need to get a group of people interested, get them together, come up with a mission statement, some kind of organization, probably a board to oversee it, and then work. You need to consult an attorney on that. Will not be the county attorney because this is not a county organization, but that's my idea of the general outline. But I think if Mark, if you want to address that a little bit further, I'll turn it over to you.
From my understanding, a 401c3 can be set up like we could form one off of Hartsville Strong, or am I correct? Or would that make it easier, I guess?
It probably perhaps would, but my only question would be, and I think, again, if you got an attorney, I would certainly defer to him. I think there might be a little potential conflict maybe with the mission statement, but that might be just something, you couch it under that. I think, did Hartsville Strong do something similar? You started out under another one and then branched out?
Yeah, we started out under Ward High.
That would be my only reservation, and I don't know that it's really that big an issue. As far as what the IRS rules all are, I avoided tax class, so I didn't take that in law school. So I would certainly defer to somebody else on that one. But again, I would just recommend if they go that route and they get an interested group together, that they reach out to an attorney that does 501c3 organizations and certainly follow their advice.
Yeah, Greg Traylor up at with Russell Brown law firm in Lafayette handled it for us.
So I would just say if there's any board members or anyone watching online, whether live on Facebook or watching it later on YouTube, if you are interested in talking to Ms. Trout about the 501c3, again, I want to reiterate, it is not going to be under the county. This will be a private organization that is created with that group. You can go on the county's website and under the animal shelter, it should be under the government tab, click animal shelter, and her contact information is there. So again, if anyone's interested in doing that, please contact Ms. Trout. Our last item on the agenda is public comment. There is no public here, so I don't know that there's going to be a comment, but I saw a couple of hands from board members raise up. So if you want to go ahead, I'll go first to Ms. Turner and then to Cliff.
There's a Friends of Hartsville, Tennessee Animal Shelter. Do we not? What are you saying here no for? What explain? Who is it? We can't get control of this or have it changed in any way because it's, I mean, we still got dates on it. Stayed here January 17th. I don't want to say we're taking donations and somebody send to the wrong people or anything like that. I'd like to see if we can't do something about this.
She has herself listed as a shelter director on her Facebook page, so good luck dealing with her.
Well, that's a Facebook problem. I think we should be able to do something about it.
Well, we do something on the shelter director part now, it being 501c3 or whatever yours is in that one. I think that's going to be between private individuals, not concerning the county, because it was never really under the county to begin with. But I think that's the group that had an agreement with the county, I believe, before to do the shelter or something. And then we went to the current setup. So currently it has, my understanding, it's not affiliated with the shelter. Hasn't been since I've been in office. So I believe if there's going to be, maybe you want to reach out and see if you can speak to them and see if they're interested. If not, I will leave that to whatever private individuals look into that.
I will say that I have reached out because once I started the investigation of this whole process, the Friends of, I did reach out to her. I was given a very harsh, how dare you question who I am. I did say that there was no ill intent, and given an opportunity to again address who this person was, never got it. So that's the reason why I suggested that we name it something else. It does say Friends of, I think it says Hartsville Animal Shelter, has nothing to do with me. I don't know for sure if that is a 501c3, if it's a nonprofit, or if it is just titled on Facebook that they're Friends of. I don't want to point out, I don't want to be negative towards someone. I don't know who this person is. Like I said, that one transaction with this person was the last one. So I don't have anything to do with it. I just say that's the reason why I wanted to name it something totally different.
I'll just reiterate at this time, I think they had affiliated or donated money or something to the shelter before I took office. But at the same time, the county is not affiliated with any 501c3 as far as the animal shelter is concerned at this moment. And so if there is going to be some disagreement between any bodies starting up 501c3s for the animal shelter, I will leave that to those private organizations. And then if you get one established, we can talk about working with the county, but getting up what it's going to be named, how it's going to be structured, and all that stuff, that will be left to private individuals. That's not going to be anything under the county's umbrella.
I'd like to say that there's a business in town called Hearts Vegas. So if we're friends, that's going to be friends of the business. So I know it's going to be 501c3, but it still seems like we're going to be friends of those folks instead of the animal shelter. So just saying.
Yes, thank you for pointing out. I didn't realize, I knew that she was there and it does say Hearts Vegas, but I didn't make the connection. It's probably, I'll probably add something or maybe even do it something totally different, but I did want to add that, that the organization isn't even, I don't even think that there's anything on her page that says anything to the effect of, you know, that it's associated with the shelter.
Is there any other comments? Or I would just reiterate, if any of the board members want to serve, or if you have an idea of somebody may be interested in serving, if you could pass the name along to Ms. Trout. And I believe Cliff has something he wants to say.
Are you talking about the Facebook page that's up now about Hartsville Animal Shelter?
Hers says Friends of, I believe it says Trousdale County Animal Shelter. Most of the counties that have a 501 that's connected to their animal control or humane society, that's what they call it, Friends of, so that people know that it's associated with, not really, maybe not even associated, but it's connected to the shelter. But we can call it whatever we want to. I know, I was going to say that Macon County, the Melissa Cothran, she is helping us with that as far as right now. She has given me her connection with an electronic donation. So that is there. We have something temporarily right now. But yeah, what you're talking about, Cliff, we can name it whatever we want to, but it's usually Friends of whatever.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can get them to say Friends of Trousdale County Animal Shelter instead of, because this one says Friends of Hartsville, Tennessee Animal Shelter. And I don't want to be associated in any way with these folks, because we get mixed messages, sending mixed messages. And if she starts taking donations, then, you know, if it's meant for us, we're going to have hurt feelings, and you're going to be the ones hearing about it. So I just want to make sure we're clear on who we are versus who they are. And I think you could really file a complaint with Facebook and probably get something done about it. That's just me.
I was just gonna say I can look into that for sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, I'll just recognize we're at the public comment and we have no one from the public here. Again, anyone watching on Facebook, if you have any questions or anything, you can certainly call Ms. Trout at the contact information on the animal shelter's webpage under the county's website, or if you want to call the mayor's office, we can give her contact information. Does anyone have any other items that need to be brought to the board? Ms. Johnson?
I just have a question. Do we still have like a leash law or something in place on stray dogs or, you know?
No, when they passed the ordinance that created the current setup for the animal shelter, they repealed Title 10 and everything that preceded it in its entirety. And they did not provide a provision for leash laws back into what they replaced it with. So at this point, we do not have a leash law.
Is that something that's gonna come back in play, or is that something that you're gonna focus on, or?
That's some of that ordinance package. I mentioned that Ms. Trout and I are going to work with the county attorney to make a suggestion of ordinances that maybe need to be put in place. Like I said, Mount Juliet has a lot of things that I don't think need to be applied to Hartsville, Trousdale County, but there are some certain items there that would just make sense to adopt here. They used to be in existence under the previous code when it was town of Hartsville and then rolled over to Hartsville, Trousdale County, but they were repealed when they did this animal shelter. So some of those will probably just be putting those back in place. And then some other items that, like the ownership, I don't think there was anything in the previous code that defined ownership. So that might be a new item, and then maybe a couple of other ones, but that'll be a package that's brought to this board for review before it's submitted to the county commission. Anyone else have anything, any other items to bring to the board, or?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Well, Ms. Turner was reaching for her button, so I'll give her that and then we'll go to the motion to adjourn.
I would like to respectfully resign as secretary and nominate Jeannie Gregory as my replacement, please.
I make a motion to approve Jeannie Greger.
All right, well, let's deal with the first one. Ms. Turner is, I guess, submitting her resignation as secretary, so she doesn't want to be an officer on the board anymore. It's not really up for debate too much, and you just don't want to serve, so I can't tell you you have to. That being the case, we now have a vacancy in the position of secretary. Does anyone have any nominations for that position at this time?
I nominate Linda Sue Johnson.
Okay, Ms. Johnson has been nominated, but she's shaking her head pretty vociferously, so no, I think she declines the nomination, Ms. Gregory. Are there any other nominations for the position of secretary?
I nominate Miss Gregory.
I second.
Mr. Presley has nominated Ms. Gregory. Ms. Johnson has seconded. Ms. Gregory, are you willing to accept that nomination? Okay, Mr. Gregory has indicated you will be willing to accept the nomination. Are there any further nominations for position of secretary? Does anybody else want to throw somebody else under the bus? Okay. Well, I see some pointing, but no actually official nominations. So at this point, there's been a motion made. It's been properly seconded to name Ms. Gregory as secretary. She has indicated her willingness to serve in that position. So all in favor of Ms. Gregory being appointed secretary of the board, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say no. Okay. The ayes have it. Ms. Gregory, congratulations on being appointed secretary. That being said, we've reached the end of the agenda.